Danny Houston.
Now I can see.
Cool, cool. So yeah, everybody that's just joined us, man. We have Soren Bacon here, man. He's a journalist, you know what I mean, an author. He's worked for, man, the Source, HipHopDX. He's written the. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get a sip of water here. 1 second. 1 second. The history of gangster rap. Man, it's just a lot going on. This is really dope, man. I've been following your work for a while, man. So I appreciate you even joining me on the call. Let me say that first of all.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me and reaching out, and thanks to Sydney for connecting us. So I
Yeah,
appreciate both y'all for making it happen.
definitely, definitely. So, man, you're from Maryland, right? Let's kind of tell a little bit of your story a little bit. You're from Maryland.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about like Maryland, because I don't know if I've met anybody from Maryland, man, before. To be honest with you.
No, Maryland's incredible, man. It's my second favorite place after LA. So
So
I
LA
grew up in a
taking
little place.
sense.
What's that?
LA is kind of taking precedence over in your life, as far as home.
Oh yeah, man. I love LA.
Yeah.
So I born and raised in Maryland. I grew up in a little city called Gambrills, which depending on where people or how familiar people are with the area, it's basically equidistant to Baltimore and Washington, so about 20 miles from Baltimore, 20 miles from DC, and very close to Annapolis and very close to Bowie. So, I just born and raised there, and that's being in that area is very diverse, very multicultural, very progressive. So, a lot of my friends gravitated toward rap, black and white, and I played a lot of basketball. I'd go into Baltimore and DC all the time to play basketball and do stuff with my friends once they got old enough to drive, and then once I got old enough to drive, I'd go into Baltimore and DC, go to clubs, go to concerts, go to events at Howard or Bowie State or these different places. And so yeah, man, it was incredible.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you ended up writing the book about gangster rap. Like, talk about just the influence of that, because it's obviously played a huge role. I mean, of what you do. Hello.
I lost you for a second.
Oh man. Okay. No, I was just saying. I was saying. Talk a little bit about just the influence of gangster rap, like early on, because that's obviously like a huge part of just what you do. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
influence.
So when I was a little kid, I started listening to rap, and then pretty soon after I started listening to it, I heard Schoolie D, and I knew like I loved LL Cool J, I loved Dana Dane, I loved Houdini, I loved Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick and all the UTFO and all the artists, Kool Moe D that I heard early. But then when I heard Schoolie D, it definitely connected with me in a different way because Philly was so close to where I'm from. And then also he was talking about his beats. He produced himself and his beats were so incredible, I thought. But then also his lyrics were very different because, and he had told me this both for my book and then just talking to him over the years, that he looked at the message which inspired him by Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel, the Furious Five, but he looked at it like they didn't cuss, they didn't talk how we talked on the streets. And when I heard Schoolie rapping, he used profanity, he used the N word, he used gang terminology and all this stuff, and that's how I heard people talking. So it made me understand and appreciate it in a little bit of a different way because later I learned Schoolie was like, I was gonna rap like the dudes we talked on the street. I'm not gonna rap like some other fantasy world and where people don't cuss. And it didn't. I love Schoolie D, but gangster rap it wasn't even called that yet. It didn't necessarily. I didn't like it more per se. I just liked it a lot, just like I loved all rap. And then later we get Ice T. Later we get Easy E and N.W.A. And I just loved how they were all particularly able to articulate this frustration, this disappointment in America, both as it unfortunately, related to the police back then, which we see again and again over time. And again, it's continuing till today. But then on top of that, they had Schoolie D had it, Ice-T had it, Eazy-E had it, and Eazy-E more than any of them probably, but they had humor in it. But then they also had this street gangster element to it, and they talked about these atrocities in a way that was different than what Boogie Down Productions was doing, Public Enemy, and all the other artists that were coming out around that time. And I mean Public Enemy after Criminal Minded.
Right.
But and then of course in Houston with the Ghetto Boys came soon thereafter also. So I just grew to love it and I appreciated it because their brand of poetry focused on the, you know, the Donald Goines angle of things as opposed to the pure poetry angle of it or the braggadocio or the girls or what have you. It was just something that I just thought was very remarkable. And especially one of the early songs that blew me away was Squeeze the Trigger by Ice-T. It's a song a lot of people don't talk about, but that one, he talks a lot about police brutality. He talks about gangs. He talks about the government's role in specific atrocities that are going on. So I would recommend, if no one's heard Squeeze the Trigger by Ice-T, you should listen to it. And remember, this came out in '87. And listen to it in 2020. It's phenomenal still.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, I see we got Zero in here. Shout out to Zero watching. But yeah, so when did you know that you wanted to kind of get involved with it? When did it go from like being a fan and being like, okay, well now I kind of want to get a hand in on this thing, and the journalism aspect versus wanting to be an artist, or did you want to be an artist at some point?
Well, really, it kicked in when I was 12. I remember my friend Sean Craig and I were on the basketball court and we were listening to Schoolie D Saturday Night, the album. And I just remember saying to him, like, yo, man, I wish I want to meet Schoolie D. I want to see what he's really like. And I want to get to know him because I want to know if he's like he is in his raps. Is he this cool? Is he that crazy? Is he this tough? And I just was like, man, I got to figure out how to get involved. But in Maryland at the time, you know, Baltimore was really into house music and DC was really into go-go. So the rap, other than seeing people come into the area, nobody was really making rap per se that much at the time because everybody was trying to be a go-go artist, really. And my friends, especially, they like go-go or, you know. So then I also looked at it kind of weird because I didn't think about it when I was 10 or 12, but I didn't think I could be an artist, not because I was white, but because I didn't understand that the guys were a lot older than me, like Kumo D or Chuck D or Schoolie D or Dana Dane. They're like 10 years older than me, all of them at least, or approximately an Ice-T. So I was like, man, I can't write that clever. I'm not that good at writing. And like, I could never do that. But I didn't understand. They had doubled my life almost, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So I was just like, man, I got to figure out. And I didn't have any, you know, both my parents are school teachers and we're in the DC, Baltimore area. So we didn't have any like record company connections or entertainment industry or anything. It wasn't like I knew anybody that worked at a record label. There weren't any record labels in the area. So, but I had interest in writing and journalism because journalism was big in the sense that my parents subscribed to the Baltimore Sun and the Washington Post and the Capital, which was the Annapolis newspaper. So we had a lot of newspapers. And then with DC being the nation capital, we had all the national news was local to us as well as the local news. So we would have what was going on in the city and in Baltimore and stuff, but then we'd also get what I learned later was a disproportionate amount. What was the national news was the local. You know, all those things.
yeah, yeah. And so you end up going to is it Xavier for college?
Yep. Yeah, I went to Xavier in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Cincinnati, Ohio. Not okay. Okay. I thought it was
Not,
Xavier in
not in
Florida.
Louisiana. Even though I've been there, I've been there twice. I went there once when I was in Louisiana for a conference, and then I went another time when I was back in New Orleans. But it's funny, a lot of people think I went to the one in Louisiana, but I didn't. I went in Ohio.
Okay. Well, yeah, that changes everything. So tell me about this Xavier then, because this is different than the Xavier that I know in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's the one that's famous mostly for basketball. Um, there's a lot of famous basketball players that went there that made it to the NBA. It's in Cincinnati. And that was the first culture shock I really had because I wanted to go see a different part of the country because my parents, my dad worked as a school teacher. My mom basically stayed at home to raise us. So we didn't have any extra money. So we didn't go. We took 2 vacations when I was a kid and we were both driving. So I didn't see other areas really. So I wanted to go a little bit away to college. So I picked Xavier. I got an academic scholarship, which helped. And then I wanted to go far away from home so I could just see something else. And that's where I just saw that I saw racism in a whole different way than I'd ever experienced it because on the one hand, I the white people at Xavier had never been around a white person like me, and the black people at Xavier had never been around a white person like me. So both thought I was fake or fraudulent or acting or whatever, but it was just very odd because in Maryland, even if the white people didn't like me or respect me because I had such an interest in rap or you want to say black culture or what have you, they knew that's who I was from growing up since I was a little kid. So it wasn't like anything surprising. And shout out to Mean Green. I see. Yes, I went to Freaknik too with Mean Green. So I've been over there. but but the thing is that Cincinnati really was a very weird experience because it was uncomfortable in the sense that I hadn't experienced that type of racism, at least overtly, to myself and the others that I had in Cincinnati that I did growing up in Maryland. So that was weird and sad and uncomfortable.
Yeah. But I mean, at college, this is where you got to meet different people and kind of, were you traveling with them? Talk a little bit about that, like going and visit their homes and like different things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Since one of the reasons I wanted to go away was to see different stuff. So at Xavier, you have a lot of people throughout all of Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Michigan. So anytime anybody was going home that I was either friends with or even kind of cool with, I'd be like, hey, if you need somebody to ride with you, I'll go, or, you know, I'll pay the gas money or, whatever it was. So I used that opportunity. I got to go to Detroit several times, to Cleveland, to Lexington, to Louisville, to Nashville. And if I had one or two friends that went to colleges in those cities as well, so I would like stay with them for the weekend too, and
And
that also helped a lot.
are you getting introduced to? Because I mean, at that time, everything was still very regional. It wasn't the internet. Were you getting introduced if you go to Memphis? You're getting whatever's hot in Memphis at the time that you may have not heard at Xavier. Are you getting those types of experiences as well while you're going home with your friends?
Not that much because even then, I hadn't started writing. I didn't start writing until the end of my freshman year, but up to that point, the independent rap hadn't really exploded yet. So even in Cincinnati, there were a couple little things that had happened, like over to Rhyme Click and Mood, but Mood later came out on Blunt Records through TVT, which had Mike Geronimo also at the time, but they didn't. The independent scene blew up probably 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah.
So there wasn't this flood of releases that you got that were coming out like all day, every day, like we got in the later 90s.
Yeah. So is this is at the same time when you start getting involved with the Source, right, in college?
Yeah, I did a article on DJ ICD in Cincinnati. I was writing for the weekly free newspaper called Everybody's News. And I did a story on this DJ ICD who was super cool. And he was like, hey, man, you know, you're a really good writer. Would you want to write for The Source? And I was like, are you serious? Of course I would. So he was like, oh, my
Yeah.
man's coming from The Source. He's doing the promo run for the Source Street Team. Would you, you should give me your articles. I'll let you meet him. And so his name's Usman Sam. Shout out to Usman for giving me the walking me in the door. But I never forget. We went to the record store, and I literally had photocopied about 7 or 8 of my articles probably, and I just gave them to him in a Manila folder. And he said, no, I'm gonna look at them right now. He just opened up the folder and read them right in front of me. He goes, yo, these are dope. We need you to write for The Source. He's like, I'm gonna have the editors call you. And I was like, okay, because I had like a Roots story in there. I had a Fugees story and Far Side, I think. And I'd interviewed the Fugees and the Far Side at that point. So then, yeah, within a couple of days, he took my number, and then the editor, Dario Strange, gave me a call a couple of days later, and I started writing for The Source. And to the regional point, my first interview I ever did for The Source with the Houston connection was 8 Ball and MJG.
Nice.
So,
It was, and what album was this coming out hard, or what time, around what time was this?
nah, on top of the world. So,
Nice,
so
nice.
the second wave really of them, or third wave,
Yeah,
third album.
yeah. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So how was your time at the Source? How long were you there? Because you didn't you leave and then you came back, right?
Well, I wrote for The Source starting in '95, and then in '98 I got a job at Rap Pages, so I had to stop.
Okay.
And then I worked at Rap Pages in '98 and '99, and then in two end of '99, Rap Pages shut down temporarily, and then I got and then shout out to P. Frank Williams. He had me start writing for The Source a lot, and then in 2003, so I wrote for them for 2.5, 3 years, and then basically uh, Jeremy Miller and Kim Osario reached out to me to do the Source Awards program, and after I did that, then I got a job as an editor at The Source. So that was the first time, and that was toward the end of 2003.
Yeah, yeah. And then from there you went to you walked into the blog area and you got involved with the Hip Hop DX?
Yeah, so that was much later though. That was
Well,
2000.
well, catch me up there. I'm sorry. Let's fill in the gap there. I'm sorry. Because
No, no. I worked for The Source from about 2003 to 2009, and then I just freelanced and did all my other writing and stuff. And in that time, I started doing a lot of other things. I was selling beats. So I sold, I worked with legendary Trackster, who people in Houston would know that he did a lot of Do or Dies production.
okay.
So I sold some beats for him. And then I wrote and produced for VH1. I did Ultimate Albums episode on the Marshall Mathers LP. And then I also did, uh, what else did I do? I did some DVDs. I wrote and produced DVDs for um, Tech Nine and Strange Music. So I did a Tech Nine experience, and then I did the documentary, and then I wrote my first book, The History of Rap and Hip Hop, which came out in 2006. And I was just doing a whole bunch of stuff in addition to normal writing. I was writing for the LA Times this whole time, up until 2010ish, I guess. I started writing for the LA Times in '98, and I wrote for them for about 10 years, till the top of 2009.
Yeah. So when you left the Source, was that kind of due to just the climate kind of changing with print kind of going out and all that, or was it just a thing
Yeah,
of
they
like?
were having some financial issues. And Air Jordan, Marshall Mathers was '99.
Okay.
The Marshall, excuse me, Slim Shady was '99. Marshall Mathers is 2000.
Marshall Mathers, yeah, the Marshall Mathers, yep, yeah, that was the second one. Yeah, that is 2000. Yeah,
So the first national LP was a Slim Shady LP. That was '99. But yeah, I left the Source mainly because they're they were having financial issues with print, and then with just the downturn of advertising and people shifting more to the internet at the time. So I just, I'm more or less, I just got laid off more or less because they were losing money, and I was based on the West Coast. Everybody's on the East Coast. I wasn't able to relocate to New York, so it was what it was.
Yeah, yeah. So with the hip hop DX thing, like talk a little bit about that, because that's the blog era, man. Like that was a
Well,
huge deal.
I was a little later than the blog area, but Justin Hunt reached out to me. He was editor in chief at the time.
Wait, so
Uh,
when did you start at Hip Hop DX then?
that would have been like 13, 14.
Oh yeah, that is a little after. Yeah, yeah, after the blog
So
era. Yeah,
I wasn't involved in the blog era really. I wrote here and there for a couple of websites and stuff, but nothing serious. And I wasn't, I was still doing a lot for the Chicago Tribune and the LA Times and other magazines and stuff. I never was part of that. I didn't really participate in it.
yeah,
So.
yeah. No, that's cool. So talk about the history of gangster rap, man. Like, I know that's was this a passion thing or like what? I mean, what did this kind of just come
Well,
from?
yeah, I got my shirt on now.
That's what's up.
But yeah, gangster rap. Schoolie D is my favorite rapper, and basically I did in the midst of doing a lot of other stuff in 2014 to 2016. Exhibit and I did a radio show on KDA called Open Bar Radio. Exhibit, of course, is the host, and I was a co-host. But George Hinojosa, who's Ice-T's manager, heard me on the radio, and he called me, and he was like, "Yo, Soren, how come you're not writing these rap books that are coming out?" And I said, "Well, I had a few, but I want to do more, and I want to do bigger ones, but." A couple of them fell through at the finish line. A couple of them, people said they were going to do stuff and they didn't. So it was just a lot of circumstantial stuff to where it didn't. So I told him, I said, "Look, George, you manage Ice-T and you're the man. If you want to help me, help me. I'd love to do these books." And so he's like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And then we came up with 3 ideas. The history of gangster rap's the one we liked the most. And then, he pitched it and we got a deal. And Abrams Books thankfully agreed to do it, and then it came out in October 2018, and like it sold extremely well. It's got a lot of great feedback. If you go on my Instagram and go back starting around that time, I mean, Ice-T endorsed it, DOC endorsed it, Snoop endorsed it, Dr. Dre endorsed it. Just go down the line. Exhibit, Be Real, MC Ren, RBX did the voiceover for my commercial, which was phenomenal.
Nice.
So
Everything to
and
make it official.
huh?
Everything to make it official.
Trying to, man, trying to. The other 2 ideas are still in development because I got a lot of other books going on that we may revisit those, we may not, because I got I work a lot, so it may not be the right time to do a certain thing, but when it is, we pull it out of the chamber because I keep a log of all my ideas and what I want to do. So those 2 we haven't revisited yet, but we may soon because I got a lot of stuff I'm working on.
Yeah. How long did it take you to put the book together?
It wasn't that long. It took about a year, and it was largely to try to track down the artists because thankfully, and knock on wood, I don't have any problems writing and I write quickly. It's more that what I did to differentiate the history gangster rap from everything else was it's not what these dudes said to somebody else. 75 to 80% of the book is what they said to me for the book. So I had to track down, I interviewed more than 30 people for the book. So I got all original reporting, or 80%, give or take, original reporting, because I didn't want, if I quoted Snoop, I didn't want what Snoop said to somebody last year because I know Snoop, and he gave me an interview. So I'd rather get it from Snoop, and I'd rather be an original from Snoop. And it worked out a lot better that way. And I did that for almost everybody. And then some people like Ice Cube, I had stuff from when I had interviewed him before, and it was my interview that I'd never used. So I used that for the book because I had it, and I wanted to make it original and different. So when you pick up the history of gangster rap, you're going to see photos you never seen, you're going to see quotes you never seen, and you're going to see all the biggest dudes connected to gangster rap, either interviewed by me directly or talked about and discussed, and that's why it was so important. And like Air Jordan said, authenticity matters, and it does, because I wanted the book to be the artists themselves. Like Schoolie D gave me, for those that don't know or want to remember, like he drew his early single covers and early album covers. So he gave me a original piece of art that he had never published, and it's in my book.
Nice.
So I've interviewed Schoolie, so many times over the years, but he gave me another interview for the book, and then he gave me his art. And that's what I wanted to make the book different. Ice-T gave me a phenomenal interview. MC Ren gave me a phenomenal interview. Snoop gave me a phenomenal interview. All these guys. Game gave me an amazing video shout out on Instagram. So, all this stuff, I wanted to make the book as good and as diverse and as original as I could as I told the story, And same with DJ Quick and MC8. And, I just was fortunate.
Do you have a favorite? Schoolie D is your favorite. Would you say Schoolie D is your favorite artist?
He is.
Hands down. Okay, that's what's up. What about West Coast? Just hands down West Coast rapper.
Well, other than Schoolie, I don't do any favorites. I just do who I think is the best. He's the only asterisk. So, everybody else, my favorites are who I consider the best. And the two artists from the West Coast that I think are the best are Ice Cube and Too Short.
Favorite Too Short album?
Again, I don't really do that type of stuff, but I think the best Too Short albums are
with the Dangerous.
Are what?
With the ones with the Dangerous Crew, that whole run.
Yes. So Life is Too Short, Shorty to Pimp, Dogs in the House. That era of Short, I think, is the best, because that was the best, in my opinion, match sonically and artistically. That's where he, I think, showed the most of his range, because I see we got Somebody Loves Cocktails, but I think Cocktails started the change of him getting more into focusing
on the pimp thing,
almost exclusively on the sexual stuff, or focusing on it way more than he had. Whereas prior to that, I think he had a lot more.
Like Life is Too Short, and getting just different types of records. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Social commentary was a lot more.
The Ghetto, and yeah.
Yeah, he had Money in the Ghetto, he had I Want to Be Free, he had It's Your Life, he had Oaktown, Oakland, City of Dope. He had all these songs that had so much social commentary, and in my opinion were phenomenal, which is why I think he's one of the best rappers ever, because he could do such a wide range of things, and the beats on every album are incredible. So, and he had live music too. Like, people sleep on that. They had a lot of live, especially with the guitar and the bass. They had so much that you just feel the music different, man, because it's a human playing. And that sonically makes a big difference. And Scarface is the same way. A lot of the Scarface music, even some of the Ghetto Boys, shout out to Ant Banks. I see someone mentioning that.
Oh, yeah.
Ant Banks had a lot to do with that. Short himself is a producer. People don't really understand or appreciate that either. Short made a lot of his own beats early, or at the minimum co-produced them. So, yeah, the music, man, I think really from Life is Too Short probably up to maybe Shorty to Pimp is my favorite. Those four albums right there, I'd say.
And In the Trunk, man. Oh man, that's one of my favorite songs, man.
And no profanity. So again, it's, you know, Too Short is he's phenomenal, man. And he can do basically any type of rap. So he's incredible. And we saw him, shout out to Little John for resurrecting and reinventing the sound of Too Short, which happened in the early and mid 2000s. And that again just shows how brilliant Short is, that he could go from the sound that the dangerous music sound that they had, and then evolve into something that what Little John did with them with Crunk much later, and Blow the Whistles, his biggest single ever.
Yeah,
And that was in his third decade of making music. Just think about that.
yeah,
He came out in the mid 80s, and the biggest song he ever had was in the 2000s.
yeah.
That's just unprecedented.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Man, talk a little bit about just getting into the YouTube space with unique access and all that.
Yeah, so Unique Access is my YouTube channel. I launched it in 2016. And basically, I wanted to, everybody, since way before I understood stuff, they were like, man, you should have your own magazine. You should have your own magazine. But I have so many interests and so many things that I want to do. I never really thought about it or entertained it too much. And then when it got to the web, everybody's like, oh, you should have your own website. And I was like, well, nah. But when I started understanding better with YouTube, and I'm still late to that game, even though I started in 2016, obviously I was pretty late. But I realized that the thing that the artist always told me, the thing that the readers would tell me, the thing my friends would tell me, just everybody was always like, your interviews are so good and so different, and you focus on stuff that people don't talk about, and you know and I've gotten to be friends with so many of the artists that they were just like, yo man, you should do your own interviews. And I was like, yeah, I could and I should. So that's why I launched Unique Access, and it's still growing and it's still big. I got more than 21,000 subscribers. We got more than 4.2 million views. And I was talking to Sir Jinx today. He did a whole bunch of interviews with me. We're going to do more. And I got a whole bunch of artists that I haven't interviewed. I'm about to. And I got some of the guys and women that I've already interviewed that want to come back. And that to me is what it's about, because as I hope you can tell, and anybody's watching, like, I love rap. It's my favorite thing in the world, and it has been since I was 10 years old. And I want to promote it, celebrate it, document it, critique it, and keep doing that as long as possible, because it's my favorite thing in the world. And it has been since I was a little kid.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything? I mean, you've already done a lot, so much with hip hop and just in the journalism world. I mean, you've written books, you've written for some of the greatest publications. Man, is there anything that you want to do that you haven't done yet?
Yeah, that's what I'm working on all the time. Shout out to Jukebox for Rap a Lot Ghetto Boys. I see you on. But yeah, man, there's a lot I want to do. There's a lot of books I want to do. I want to get more into the television and film world, because I want to incorporate, and integrate a lot of the stuff that I've thought about, read about, and been involved in since I was a little kid with music into television and film. So that's very important to me, and that's why I wanted to do Unique Access, because a lot of people were like, they were like, you're significant or you're important because of how you do it, and the fact that you love everything the way that you do. And that meant a lot to me, and it always has. And that's why I think I've connected with and became friends with a lot of artists, because they like what I represent, what I write about, what I talk about, and that I love the music. And I've been fortunate that they've embraced me and endorsed me so much. I mean, I've been thanked on like 30 or 40 albums, and you know, the support from my book, The History of Gangster Rap's huge. The support of Unique Access is huge. When you look at the caliber of artists I've had on there, I mean, I've had Scarface, I've had David Banner, I've had MC Ren, I've got Dana Dane, I've got Exhibit, I got Be Real, I got of the younger artists, I got G Perico, I got AD, I got Nice and Smooth, I got Jay Prince from Houston, I've got Bill Duke, the legendary actor director. I've had Big Les, you know, D Barnes. I've had so many wide range of artists that you know, RBX. It's just been it's been a blessing, man. And then you know, Talib Kweli and OC. So it's just all the as you can tell, just as I run down those names, that's all over the country, man. Big Gift. Shout out Goody Mob, of course. These are all people that have been on Unique Access, and it's because I think it's because how I think in general, but I've always loved all forms of rap. So like I born and raised on the East Coast and I love East Coast rap, but I love all rap. And I think that's also helped me a lot because one thing that I did, you know, we didn't grow up poor by any means, but we didn't have extra money. So what I did was I would save my money and I would buy the albums that my friends wouldn't buy or didn't buy. And then I would copy theirs. So a lot of my originals for a little while were the West Coast, the Midwestern, and Southern albums. And the copies I had were from the New York artists because that's what a lot of my friends, the New York and New Jersey dudes, were more of who they liked. So, you know.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm just reading some comments here. Let's see. Dez Corrupt on there. Dez is my third favorite rapper. That's what's up. Yeah, man. So, man, this has been cool, man. I don't really want to waste too much, too much of your time, but this has been cool, man. I'm just kind of getting into this media space myself, man, with my podcast within like the first year. So, just to sit down, man, and speak to someone, who's been in the game as long as you have, man, it's a real honor. I appreciate it.
Nah, thanks for having me. And you know, you're doing big things yourself. So, you know, congratulations on that. And you know, I'm glad that you had me on here and had the opportunity, man. So appreciate it, Don.
Yeah, definitely, man. We'll have to connect again some other time, man. But this is cool, man.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate it.
All right, my man. Have a good one.
All right,
Donnie Houston.